Something happened last month that most Nigerians do not know about. And if you are a doctor, a medical professional, or you have a family member in the medical field who has been affected by the US travel ban, you need to watch this video right now. Because there has been a significant development that could change everything for Nigerian physicians specifically. In January 2026, thousands of Nigerian doctors working in the United States had their visa extensions frozen. Their work permits stopped processing. Some were placed on administrative leave. Some lost job placements they had worked years to secure. One doctor, a Nigerian woman who had just matched to a surgery residency in Oregon, cried the day after her match because she did not know if she would be able to start. And at least a dozen doctors were detained during routine traffic stops because their immigration documents had lapsed due to the freeze. And then, quietly, without any formal announcement, the United States government reversed the policy. The Trump administration has now confirmed that Nigerian physicians and other foreign doctors from travel ban countries are exempt from the immigration processing freeze. Visa applications for medical physicians will continue processing. Work permits are being renewed. And the exemption is now official. But here is the part nobody is talking about clearly enough. What exactly does this exemption cover? Who qualifies? What about nurses, pharmacists, dentists, and other medical professionals? What does it mean for Nigerian doctors still in Nigeria who want to go to the US? And what does none of this change about the overall travel ban that is still very much in effect? This video answers every single one of those questions. Stay with me till the end because this is one of the most important updates on US immigration for Nigerians in 2026. Welcome back to the channel. My name is Praise and I run Social and Travels, a travel and migration support company that helps Nigerians navigate visa applications, immigration processes, and international relocation. This channel is specifically dedicated to giving Nigerians accurate, honest, and actionable immigration information, not rumors, not clickbait, but real verified information you can actually use. Today we are doing a full breakdown of the US travel ban physician exemption, what happened, why it happened, what it means, who it covers, and what Nigerian medical professionals both in the US and in Nigeria need to know right now. Let us get into it. To understand what this exemption means, you need to understand what happened from the beginning. Let me take you through the full timeline. June 2025, the first travel ban. In June 2025, President Trump signed Presidential Proclamation 10949, which imposed travel restrictions on 19 countries. This ban came in two forms. 12 countries, including Afghanistan, Iran, Somalia, and Libya, were hit with a full ban covering all visa categories. 7 other countries were subject to partial restrictions covering immigrant visas and certain non-immigrant visa categories including B1, B2 tourist visas, F student visas, M vocational visas, and J exchange visitor visas. Nigeria was not on this first list. But that was about to change. December 2025, the expanded ban adds Nigeria. On December 16, 2025, President Trump signed a second proclamation, Proclamation 10998, expanding the travel ban significantly. This expanded version brought the total number of restricted countries to 39. And Nigeria was added to the partial restriction list. Under this expansion, effective January 1, 2026, Nigerian nationals faced suspension of immigrant visas, meaning the pathway to green cards and permanent residency was frozen. And critically, the partial suspension also covered B1, B2 visitor visas and F, M, and J student and exchange visitor visas. Nigeria became one of the most heavily affected countries, and according to the American Immigration Council, Nigeria was described as the country most heavily impacted by the new restrictions. January 2026, the processing freeze hits medical professionals. When the expanded ban took effect on January 1, 2026, it did something that the first ban had not done. It applied to people already living and working in the United States. This was far more disruptive than a ban on new applicants. Doctors, engineers, students, and professionals who were already legally in the US on valid visas suddenly found that their renewal applications were frozen. Their work permit extensions stopped being processed. And USCIS issued a policy memorandum placing a hold on the adjudication of immigration benefits for foreign nationals from the 39 affected countries. For Nigerian medical professionals in the US, this was devastating. Doctors completing residency programs could not renew their work authorization. Hospital systems placed international doctors on administrative leave because they could not legally continue working with expired or unrenewable documents. Some doctors were detained during routine traffic stops because their paperwork had lapsed through no fault of their own. Their applications were simply not being processed. One of the most heartbreaking stories came from a Nigerian woman, a medical school graduate who had just matched to a surgery residency in Oregon. The day that should have been the greatest of her career became one of the worst. Her work permit processing was frozen, and she did not know if she would be able to show up on her first day of residency. April 2026, medical associations push back. The medical community in the US fought back. On April 8, 2026, more than 20 major American medical associations, including the American Academy of Family Physicians, the American Academy of Neurology, and the American Academy of Pediatrics, sent a joint letter to the Trump administration expressing urgent concern about the barriers preventing qualified, vetted physicians from entering and remaining in the United States. The letter called for a national interest exemption and faster processing of affected cases. The associations warned of severe consequences for already strained hospitals if the situation continued. They pointed out that foreign physicians make up approximately 25% of the entire US medical workforce, and that removing them would create a healthcare crisis in a country already facing a shortage of approximately 65,000 physicians. Late April, early May 2026, the quiet reversal. Then it happened. Without a formal press conference, without a major announcement, without any fanfare, USCIS quietly updated its website to include physicians in the list of categories exempt from the processing hold. The Department of Homeland Security later confirmed the change, releasing a statement that said, applications associated with medical physicians will continue processing. The Trump administration had reversed course on physicians specifically. And the reason was simple: America needs its doctors, and a significant portion of those doctors come from the exact countries on the travel ban list. Now let us be very precise about what this exemption actually means, because there is a lot of confusion circulating online and I want to give you the honest, specific breakdown. What the exemption does cover. The exemption specifically covers physicians, medical doctors, from the 39 travel ban countries including Nigeria. If you are a Nigerian physician with applications pending with USCIS, whether that is a work permit renewal, a visa extension, or a green card application, those applications are now being processed again. You do not need to resubmit anything that was already filed. Applications that were already submitted will continue processing from where they stopped. If you are a Nigerian physician currently in the US on a valid visa and your renewal had been pending during the freeze, USCIS is now actively working on your case again. Additionally, consular posts outside the US can now issue new or renewed work-based visas for physicians, meaning Nigerian doctors applying for work visas from Nigeria are no longer automatically blocked under the processing freeze specifically. What the exemption does not cover. Here is where I need to be very clear. This exemption is specifically for physicians, medical doctors. It does not automatically extend to nurses, pharmacists, dentists, physiotherapists, laboratory scientists, or other healthcare workers. The DHS statement specifically referenced medical physicians, and the USCIS exemption is categorized under physician applications. That does not mean other medical professionals have no options, and I will talk about national interest exceptions in a moment, but the blanket exemption that has been publicly confirmed applies to physicians specifically. This exemption also does not lift the overall travel ban on Nigeria. The partial restrictions on B1, B2 visitor visas, F, M, and J visas for Nigerian nationals remain in place. A Nigerian doctor who wants to visit the US as a tourist is still subject to the same restrictions as any other Nigerian. The exemption is specifically about immigration processing for physicians seeking to work in the US, not about visiting. And the exemption does not guarantee approval of any specific application. It means the applications are being processed, not that every physician will automatically receive their visa or green card. The uncertainty that remains. Even with the exemption, significant uncertainty remains for many doctors already in the system. Doctors completing residencies and fellowships, approximately 1,000 of them were at risk of losing placements in underserved areas because their visa status was unresolved when the exemption was announced. Not all affected physicians have been individually notified about the change. And the exemption was made quietly, without a formal policy document, which means the legal weight and permanence of the exemption is still being monitored by immigration lawyers and advocacy groups. Let me break this down by category so you can identify exactly where you or your family member stands. Category 1. Nigerian physicians currently working in the US. If you are a Nigerian doctor currently working in the United States on a valid work visa or with a pending renewal application, this exemption is the most directly relevant to you. Your renewal applications and work permit extensions should now be actively processing. If you filed applications during the freeze period and have not received any update, contact your immigration attorney immediately and reference the USCIS exemption for physicians. Do not assume your application is being processed, verify. Category 2. Nigerian physicians who match to US residency programs. This is the category that was most visibly and emotionally affected. Doctors who successfully matched to US medical residency or fellowship programs and then had their work authorization frozen. The exemption should apply to your case. Your J1 or H1B applications for residency training should now be processable. However, given that the exemption was made quietly and without direct notifications to affected individuals, work with your residency program's administrative team and an immigration attorney to confirm your specific status and get your application actively moving. Category 3. Nigerian physicians applying from Nigeria to work in the US. This is more complex. The exemption primarily addresses the processing freeze for those already in the US or with pending US applications. For a Nigerian doctor applying fresh from Nigeria to work in the US, the process is not straightforward even with the exemption. You would still need a US employer to sponsor your work visa, typically an H1B or J1, and the broader restrictions on Nigeria have not been lifted. The exemption removes the processing hold but does not remove the broader scrutiny applied to Nigerian nationals under the travel ban. If you are in Nigeria and want to pursue a medical career in the US, it is possible but requires careful navigation, a strong employer sponsor, and ideally the support of an immigration attorney who specializes in physician visas. It is not impossible, but it is not as simple as showing up and applying. Category 4. Nigerian nurses, pharmacists, dentists, and other healthcare professionals. This is the gray area and I want to be honest with you about it. The confirmed exemption is for physicians, medical doctors. Other healthcare categories are not explicitly included in the USCIS exemption statement. However, there are two important points here. First, national interest exceptions exist under the travel ban for any category. The ban has always allowed case-by-case exceptions for individuals whose travel or immigration serves a U.S. national interest. Healthcare is explicitly recognized as a national interest area. If you are a Nigerian nurse, pharmacist, dentist, or other healthcare professional with a pending case, your immigration attorney can apply for a national interest exception arguing that your work serves U.S. healthcare system needs. Second, this is an evolving situation. The physician exemption itself was made without a formal announcement. Advocacy groups and medical associations are actively pushing for the exemption to be expanded to other healthcare workers. The situation is being monitored daily and could change. Stay connected to credible sources for updates. Category 5. Nigerian medical students on F visas in the US. Nigerian medical students who were already in the US on F visas before January 1, 2026 are generally protected as long as they have not left the country. However, their pathway forward after graduation, into residency and beyond, falls under the physician exemption discussion. If you are a Nigerian medical student currently in the US, work closely with your university's International Student Office and an immigration attorney to understand your specific situation as you approach graduation and the residency application stage. Let me take a moment to explain why this exemption happened, because understanding the reason helps you understand how stable it is and what it means for the future. The United States is facing a physician shortage crisis. The Association of American Medical Colleges estimates a deficit of approximately 65,000 physicians, a gap that is expected to widen as the population ages, demand for healthcare increases, and older doctors retire. Foreign-born physicians fill a critical and irreplaceable role in the U.S. healthcare system. They make up approximately 25% of all practicing physicians in the country. And they are disproportionately concentrated in medically underserved areas, rural communities, inner-city clinics, and under-resourced hospitals that American-trained doctors are less likely to choose. When the travel ban froze the immigration processing for doctors from 39 countries, it threatened to collapse certain parts of the U.S. healthcare system. Hospitals that had built their entire medical staffing model around international physicians suddenly faced the prospect of those doctors being unable to renew their work authorization. Patients in underserved areas faced the prospect of losing their doctors entirely. More than 20 major medical associations making a coordinated public appeal to the government in April was not a small thing. That level of institutional pressure from organizations representing hundreds of thousands of American physicians and millions of patients is significant. And the government listened, at least for physicians. The lesson here is important. Exemptions from political immigration policies are possible when there is a clear, documented, economically and socially significant argument for why a specific category of people serves the national interest. That is the argument that was made for physicians. And that same argument can and should be made for other healthcare categories going forward. Okay. Let us get practical. Here is exactly what I recommend based on where you are in your journey. If you are a Nigerian physician in the US with a pending application. Step 1. Do not assume your application is automatically being processed. Contact your immigration attorney or the law firm handling your case immediately and specifically ask them to confirm that your application has been removed from the hold and is actively in queue. Step 2. Gather any communication you have received from USCIS about your application status during the freeze period and share it with your attorney. Documentation of the timeline of your application matters. Step 3. If your employer placed you on administrative leave due to the freeze, work with your HR department and your attorney to reinstate your working status now that the exemption is in place. The exemption should legally allow your employer to bring you back. Step 4. Do not travel internationally until your status is fully clarified and your documents are valid and stamped. Leaving and re-entering the US while your immigration status is in any way uncertain creates significant additional risk under the current environment. If you are a Nigerian physician who matched to a residency and was affected. Step 1. Contact your residency program's administrative office immediately. Many programs have been working with immigration attorneys specifically on behalf of their matched international physicians. Find out what your program knows and what they are doing. Step 2. Connect with Project IMG, a support organization that specifically helps international medical graduates in the US navigate immigration challenges. They have been tracking this situation closely and have direct knowledge of what affected physicians need to do. Step 3. Do not withdraw from your residency program unless absolutely required. Your matched position is valuable and most programs are working to hold positions for affected international doctors. If you are a Nigerian nurse or other healthcare professional with a pending case. Step 1. Consult an immigration attorney as soon as possible. Do not rely on general information including this video. Your specific situation requires professional legal assessment. Step 2. Ask your attorney specifically about national interest exceptions under the travel ban. Frame your case around the U.S. healthcare system's documented need for your specific professional category. Step 3. Document everything about your current status, your employment, your contributions to the U.S. healthcare system, and your pending applications. This documentation will be essential for any national interest exception argument. Step 4. Follow credible immigration law sources and Nigerian medical professional communities for updates. This situation is evolving and the exemption could be expanded to other healthcare categories. If you are a Nigerian doctor still in Nigeria wanting to go to the US. Step 1. Understand that the path is more difficult but not closed. You need a strong US employer sponsor who is willing to navigate the current immigration environment with you. Start by identifying US hospitals, clinics, or medical institutions actively recruiting internationally, particularly in underserved areas which have the strongest need and the strongest national interest argument. Step 2. Connect with recruitment agencies and physician placement organizations that specialize in international medical graduate placement in the US. Many of them are now actively working with affected countries' physicians. Step 3. Be patient and realistic about timelines. This is not a 6-month process. Building the credentials, securing a sponsor, navigating the immigration process. This is a multi-year journey even in the best circumstances. Start now and be consistent. I want to use this section to make sure everyone watching understands what the physician exemption does not change, because clarity is more important than comfort. The overall travel ban on Nigeria is still fully in effect. The partial restrictions on B1, B2 visitor visas, F student visas, M vocational visas, and J exchange visitor visas for Nigerian nationals have not been lifted. If you are a Nigerian who is not a physician and you are trying to visit the US as a tourist, study in the US, or attend an exchange program, the restrictions still apply to you. The processing freeze that was lifted specifically for physicians remains in effect for all other categories of Nigerian applicants. Work permit renewals, green card applications, and other immigration benefits for non-physician Nigerians are still subject to the hold. Additionally, the situation is politically volatile. This exemption was made quietly by an administration that has consistently taken a restrictive approach to immigration. It could be expanded to cover more categories. It could also be reversed or narrowed at any time. This is not a permanent, legislated policy change. It is an administrative decision that happened without even a formal announcement. That means it can change just as quietly. The right approach for any Nigerian navigating US immigration right now, physician or otherwise, is to work with a qualified immigration attorney, stay informed through credible sources, and not make life-changing decisions based on rumors or social media posts. Section 7. The broader context, what this means for Nigerian professionals, 28:00, 31:00. Big picture, zoom out for perspective. I want to zoom out for a moment and speak to something bigger. Because this situation with Nigerian physicians in the US is not just an immigration story. It is a story about what Nigerian professionals bring to the world, and why the world needs them. Nigerian doctors make up a significant and irreplaceable part of the US healthcare workforce. They are in hospitals in rural America, in clinics in underserved urban communities, in research institutions advancing medical science. They chose the US, they trained in the US, they built lives in the US, and they made American communities healthier in the process. The fact that more than 20 American medical associations had to fight for them, had to send letters to the government, had to warn of healthcare collapse, shows that Nigerian medical professionals are not just present in the US medical system. They are essential to it. And that should tell every Nigerian medical student, every nurse, every pharmacist, every dentist, your skills have global value. The world is going to need you. Yes, immigration policies change. Yes, there will be obstacles and moments of uncertainty. But your qualifications, your training, your professional dedication, those things are valuable beyond any political moment. For Nigerian medical professionals who are looking at the current US situation and wondering whether to pivot to another destination, I want to briefly mention that there are strong alternatives worth seriously considering. United Kingdom. The UK actively recruits Nigerian medical professionals. The NHS has a structured pathway for internationally qualified doctors and nurses. The skilled worker visa for healthcare workers has faster processing, and the UK healthcare system has a long and established relationship with Nigerian medical professionals. Canada. Canada's healthcare system is in significant need of physicians and nurses. The Express Entry Pathway and several provincial nominee programs prioritize healthcare workers. Processing times for skilled healthcare professionals can be competitive. New Zealand. As I covered in a previous video on this channel, registered nurses are on New Zealand's Green List Tier 1, which means a straight-to-residence pathway. For physicians, the situation is similarly favorable as New Zealand faces significant healthcare workforce shortages. Australia. Australian states actively recruit internationally qualified doctors, particularly for rural and regional areas. The pathway involves skills assessment through the Australian Medical Council and then a visa application process. None of these alternatives is without its own challenges. But for Nigerian medical professionals who are evaluating their options in 2026, the US is not the only door. And in some cases, it is not even the fastest door. And that is the full picture. The US physician exemption is real, it is significant, and it is specifically relevant to Nigerian doctors who have been caught in the travel ban freeze. But it is not a complete lifting of restrictions. It is not a guarantee. And it is not permanent. What it is a reminder that advocacy works, that Nigerian professionals matter, and that when an injustice is specific enough and the affected group is organized enough, change is possible. If you are a Nigerian medical professional affected by any part of this, please do not navigate it alone. Get legal counsel. Connect with professional support organizations. Stay informed through credible sources. And know that your community, both in Nigeria and in the diaspora, is watching, advocating, and fighting for you. If this video helped you or gave you clarity on a confusing situation, please give it a thumbs up and share it immediately, because there are Nigerian doctors, nurses, and medical professionals right now who urgently need this information and do not know where to find it. That share could change someone's life. Subscribe if you are not already on this channel. I post visa updates, immigration news, and travel guides specifically for Nigerians every week. And drop your questions and your experiences in the comments below. Are you a Nigerian medical professional affected by the travel ban? Tell me your situation. I read every comment and I will respond. If you need help navigating any part of this, from understanding your visa options to planning your next steps, reach out to Social and Travels. The link is in the description. We are here for you. See you in the next video.